Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Contract, a Commander podcast. I'm Mike Allman, and joining me is my co-host, Alex Lapp. Alex, what's up, man?
Well, not too much, Mike. Today we're going to finally complete our Adventures in the Forgotten Realms set review by doing the new Commander cards.
Yeah, I got all my dice. I've made a character sheet. I think I've got a cool idea for, like, this wildfire druid that, like, summons this, like spirit that's like a fiery corgi thing, so I'm ready to play some D&D with you.
Okay. I mean, I thought we were playing Magic.
Aren't we doing both? Isn't that the thing?
Well, I don't know how well this skit is going to land. But,
well, I'll tell you what. You called it first, so and we teased it enough times to where we should really hit some of these cards in the D&D set, in the Forgotten Realms set, which are... Here's the thing. I love D&D, I love Magic, and I love D&D. The flavor in this set is absolutely phenomenal.
Sure.
And that said, you kind of hit it before when you were doing all of the regular main set cards that we would discuss. There's not a ton that hit into the stacks, chaos, politics, group hug
yeah,
aspect.
not too many.
But there are a few, and why don't we go ahead and start with one of them? One of the oldest, most interesting items, I think, in D&D is now a Magic card. Why don't you talk to me about a movable rod, Alex?
Yeah, Mike, a movable rod is an artifact for white, a single mana. You may choose not to untap a movable rod during your untap step. And I think for most players, once you've heard that part, you know what's happening for the rest of it. Whenever a movable rod becomes untapped, venture into the dungeon. That part's new, at least. For 3 white and tap, for as long as immovable rod remains tapped, another target permanent loses all abilities and can't attack or block. Yeah, I think if this were another color, that effect would have read that you would steal the creature. But for white, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now, losing all abilities is very nice. Normally, for a card in Standard, you wouldn't have can't attack or block, and also it loses all its abilities. You'd have either one or the other, or it can't activate its activated abilities. They usually try to temper these down in Standard. This is limiting enough that you could lock down a commander with this, and basically, unless they have a sack outlet or are able to spot remove.
Right, that, and, I mean, the very worst case scenario, yeah, it's 4 mana to activate and tap it, but it says target permanent. Like, this can turn off a Gaia's Cradle, can it?
Yes, it can.
Like, I like that they made a stacks piece where this is just target permanent doesn't get to be that permanent.
Yeah, target permanent is pretty major. It is still that permanent, it just doesn't have any abilities. Right.
Yeah. And I dig that. And it's the art is pretty hilarious too. So I'm kind of a fan of the card existing. This is the kind of stacks that I like. It is, hey, that's a problem. We're gonna turn that.
This is a pretty decent value. I do like how they give you a reason to ever untap it.
Yeah.
I mean, venturing into the dungeon is nice. You don't have to have any venture into the dungeon synergy in your deck. So you take advantage of that because the dungeon cards kind of exist, whether you have any effects in your deck that take advantage of that or not, which is nice. So there's that. That's the only white card that we're talking about today.
Yeah. Let's move on to some of these black cards here and go with Death Tyrant. 4 generic and a black for a Beholder Skeleton, 4/6 with Menace. And also has as much text as you can fit onto a card without making the text smaller. I like these like abilities that aren't abilities that they do with the italics.
An ability word.
Being, This one being a negative energy cone. Whenever an attacking creature you control or a blocking creature an opponent controls dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And then for 5 generic and a black, you can return Death Tyrant from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. It just begs to be put into a Thantis deck, into a Combat Matters deck.
Yeah.
And I like this effect a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Players in Commander are usually more willing to let damage go through, but of course, if you have some pretty devastating on-hit triggers for your creatures, as you might have in a deck like this, then of course they're willing to chump block it, but then when you chump block it, you're getting free value, getting that 2/2 zombie creature.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a nice include in any deck where you're going to be doing a lot of combat, swinging through, and against any opponents that are doing a lot of combat.
Right.
Yeah.
I think my goal is to... What is the red card that says at the beginning of everybody's... I don't know if it's their combat step or their main step, but whoever's turn it is makes a 5/1 trample haste.
Rite of the Raging Storm.
Yeah, Rite of the Raging Storm. My dream is to have this out with a Rite of the Raging Storm.
Yeah.
Just because I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I like Death Tyrant.
How about Hellish Rebuke? This is a bit of a combat trick. For 2 and a black, for an instant, until end of turn, permanents your opponent's control gain. When this permanent deals damage to the player who cast Hellish Rebuke, sacrifice this permanent, you lose 2 life. It's kind of like No Mercy, but at instant speed.
Sure.
And it's not just for combat either. It's also for any permanents that deal damage directly on the board. And then they're not only are they losing that permanent, but this would also hose a token deck, right? Because normally you lose a bunch of your tokens, oh, who cares? But now you're losing a bunch of your tokens and also losing 2 life for each token, which can be pretty devastating.
That, and if somebody's comboing off with a commander or something along those lines, a Niv Mizzet deck, a Nekusar deck, something along those lines where that permanent is dealing damage to you, well, great, I'll take my 1, and then you'll take 2. And then I'll take my 1, and you'll take... And I dig that. I also like that this is a card where you called it a combat trick, and it is a combat trick. Like, the whole point of a Hellish Rebuke in D&D is, something hit me. Well, as a reaction, I'm going to hit it back real hard.
Right.
And they made that win really well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know if I would be able to find a place for it in any of my decks, but I don't know. It's another one of those cards that's just interesting to have around.
Yeah, I feel like it's very limited is the wrong word. It's very narrow.
Yeah.
Where the amount of times that it's going to do something great also requires you to kind of get hurt a lot.
I mean, you could definitely figure out a sort of weird, janky deck that could finagle forcing your opponents to attack into you, and then they sacrifice all their permanents, and they lose all their life. You know, you can make it work.
Not a goading deck, but a Thantis deck where, oh no, everything's going to attack, or something along those lines. But yeah, it's a cool card. What else you got for me?
Lorcan, Warlock Collector, is a new commander. 5 black for a legendary creature devil, a 6/6 flyer. With whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may pay life equal to its mana value. If you do, put it onto the battlefield under your control. It's a warlock in addition to its other types. If a warlock you control would die, exile it instead. Yeah, this
is nuts.
That is quite powerful.
Yeah.
Because basically you're getting that nice Keurig effect where you're casting spells by paying life. And not only that, but I mean, usually you have this thing where when you've stolen an opponent's permanent and then it dies or you sack it, it goes to their graveyard, they can get it back eventually. But not in this case. Now it would just get exiled off of your board. Yeah.
Good luck, recursion decks. More than anything, I love that it's not even as long as Lorcan stays on the battlefield. So you take that creature, it's just yours.
Yeah, it's yours now.
And then the best thing that they can do is kill Lorcan, so when their former creature dies, well, now it's just exiled. So the idea of this, like the bottom line on this, yeah, it's expensive. It's a 7-mana 6/6 with flying, so there's evasion to it too.
Mm-hmm.
But that ability to where people don't swing in as much and people are a little bit more defensive. If there's a chance they lose their creature, well, ta-da. Now I'm going to pay 5 life and it's my creature.
Yeah, I think the signature spell here is going to be Ingaruk's Wake.
Yeah. I almost wonder, does Lorcan, does this deck, whether it's the lead singer or it's a card that's in the deck, is this something where you have to have life gain in it to be able to like actually stretch this out rather than, oh, well, I'm going to take this one creature and then
probably because unlike in the case where you would be able to reanimate creatures out of your own graveyard by paying life, you will never be able to, in most metas at least, have a strong grasp on whatever CMC or mana value your opponent's creatures are going to be, and you want a lot of value out of it. And you're right. I mean, you reanimate a couple of 4, 5, and 6 CMC creatures, you're going to notice that your life is dropping pretty dramatically. So I think some life gain would definitely not be out of place here.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like even if you play a card where everybody sacrifices a creature and you take 2 of those, say it's for a combined 9 life. Well, you've almost quartered yourself off of one ability on one turn, right. But I mean, heck, those 2 creatures might be pretty awesome.
I mean, there's also a bunch of effects in black where you lose life, other opponents lose life. I mean, you can definitely find quite a bit of synergy for this.
Oh yeah, I'm. This is one of those cards that I'm very strongly considering to put into the Lieza Angel deck, where I will have all Angels and Clerics, and also 1 Devil, I suppose, because that deck is all about changing life totals and being weird about it, and this would fit right in. But I think that's going to do it for black.
Yeah.
And again, some interesting effects. Let's get into red, because this is where we start getting to some of the really interesting cards as far as I'm concerned. Starting with Berserker's Frenzy. 2 generic and a red for an instant. Cast this spell only before combat or during combat before blockers are declared. Roll 2d20 and ignore the lower roll, so we're rolling with advantage. That's neat. On a 1 to 14, you choose any number of creatures. They block this turn if able. On a 15 to 20, you choose which creatures block this turn and how those creatures block. So this is bad Master Warcraft.
Yeah.
But I would absolutely take a 3-mana second try at Master Warcraft.
Well, it's not as restrictive of a casting cost as Master Warcraft.
Sure.
Master Warcraft is a Boros card. This is a mono red card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. I love this card. There's about 4 decks.
You choose which creatures block this turn, and how those creatures block is
yes,
devastating. I mean,
yeah.
You can win the game on the spot. You can blow up their entire board on the spot, or anything in between. You could just pick off their utility creatures. You can do whatever you want.
And you know what? And the entire time I was looking at this as like I'm absolutely going to cast this on my combat. And I wasn't even thinking about I'll hold on to this, and somebody else, if they're swinging out with a bunch of stuff, we're going to do some other stuff. Just the even making things block if they don't want to is absolutely wrecking sometimes.
Right. Now, to be clear, for 1 through 14, those creatures do have to block if able, but their controller will choose how they block. Yes. They only have to block one thing at least.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love that stuff. I think if I ever did play Modern or Standard or just traditional Magic, I would have fun because I like combat tricks. But I don't know. EDH has a special place in my heart. I just like doing combat weird stuff with it.
Of course.
Why don't you talk to me about our next card?
Oh, I see you, Mike. You want to talk about the fun one. Maddening Hex for 1 red. It's an enchantment or a curse with enchant player. Whenever an enchanted player casts a non-creature spell, roll a d6. Maddening Hex deals damage to that player equal to the result. Then, attach Maddening Hex to another one of your opponents chosen at random. I mean,
this is cool.
This just slides right into every burn deck.
Yeah.
And probably most chaos decks.
It's a cool deck.
Yeah,
It's a cool card.
I mean, I think one of the main benefit of curse effects is that you can hate out a player in specific, but I think this is a lot less a curse. It probably shouldn't have been labeled a curse, because it feels to me that like a curse is something you put on someone. It's not something that travels around the field at random, but I'm just nitpicking. I don't know.
But Alex.
What?
D&D lore.
Okay,
a hex
D&D
is
lore.
literally a curse that you move around on people in D&D after things get hit.
Okay, but do you move it around at random after people get hit?
I mean, you don't do that. I'll give you that. You are not wrong there.
Okay.
I like the little bit of chaos and moving it around, and more importantly, that it's to another one of your opponents chosen at random. So, the worst case scenario that this is ever going to have is that it goes to the one opponent you don't want who's only casting creature spells.
Well, there's that, but then there's also a second to worst case scenario where it's becoming attached to a player that does have non-creature spells and does want to cast them, but it just passed their turn. So effectively, this is only ticking a player every 2 turns.
Sure.
That can happen, and that would make this card pretty maddeningly slow.
Oh, yeah. No, this is one of those cards that I like it because it institutes the randomness of a die being 1 to 6 and the random of where it's going to go. And it's enough little effects. I don't like a burn spell that is, hey, this player takes 20.
Well, this definitely won't happen here. You don't have to worry about that.
No, but I do like it when it's like it's burning effects that, you know, go on top of each other, and it's a bunch of. I kind of dig this just because it's one of those pieces where it's not ever gonna really feel like it's hitting hard, so it's gonna probably stick around a lot longer than it should, just for 3 mana.
All right, Mike, I know that you arranged us in such a way that you want to make sure that you talk about this card, and I agree. This is the most interesting card in the whole set, so please.
Here's what I'll say. I didn't do that on purpose, and the next card we're going to talk about after this one is actually the one that I want to hit the hardest. So
okay.
I will see this back to you.
All right.
Why don't you talk?
Well, I'm very excited about this card. What a fun idea for a card. Share the Spoils.
Yeah.
1 and a red for an enchantment. Great price. When Share the Spoils enters the battlefield or an opponent loses the game, exile the top card of each player's library. During each player's turn, that player may play a land or cast a spell from among cards exiled with Share the Spoils and may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. When they do, exile the top card of their library.
Yay!
I think this
we're
is
all
just
playing everybody's deck.
This is delightful. It's chaos, but unlike your other chaos effects to this that are quite similar, your knowledge pool, effects like that, that forcibly cause players to cast other spells. This is just expanding the number of cards in your hand. And you could get a land and just play a land for free. I mean, that's kind of a less impactful thing to do, because you're hoping that they're fun, awesome spells. And of course, we have the nice clause here that says that it'll fix your mana for you. And then we have that self-balancing factor that the more you utilize Share the Spoils, the more cards from your deck are put into the pile. I like this card a lot.
I do too.
I don't know what deck I would possibly put it in, but I'm sure I could make one eventually. I like it. This is exactly the kind of effect I'd like to see. It's not making anyone do anything that they don't want to do. It's just opening up additional avenues. And you also get that big, forehead smack moment when this card top decks the spell that you really, really wanted to cast.
Right.
And there's no way you're going to get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love this card because I love the idea of, hey, everybody's playing your deck, just so you know. I'm playing your deck. They're playing your deck. Everybody's playing all of the decks. I want to clarify. So during each player's turn, that player may play a land or cast a spell.
Yes.
So you can only do one of the two.
Yes.
Okay. And then after you do that either way, then you're exiling the top card of your library.
Yes.
So there can be a point where if you're playing other people's decks, essentially, and not playing your own, there could be a chance where you've got like 4 or 5 cards in exile in the future. But I dig this card for 2 red mana. It's a great price. Right kind of chaos.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled with
it. If this were too much pricier than 2, then I think it would get a little bit less attractive. But at 2 mana, this is like, you put it down at the start of the game. I don't think anyone's ever going to blow this up. It's just going to stay there, generating a ton of value for the table all game long. It's just
the only reason somebody blows this up is because somebody plays one of their spells off the top of their deck, and then the next thing that they flip is like an It That Betrays, or it's some kind of like crazy powerful win con. It's like, oh, I have to destroy that share the spoils before somebody else gets a chance.
Well, the funny thing is, like, regardless, it's still, their card is still exiled. Like, you're never getting it back even if you blow this up.
Right. Here's the thing. I don't play enough mean cards to not love this.
I play main cards and I still love this. This is awesome.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about, you didn't know what deck you would put it into.
Right.
I'll put this in a bunch of decks just because I think it's silly.
I mean, my decks are typically pretty heavily themed, and this currently doesn't match any of the themes of any of my decks at the moment.
Maybe someday. But for now, we ain't there.
All right, Mike, tell me about the green card that we're talking about today.
Speaking of a card that can fit a couple of.
Oh, this is going right into my deck.
Yeah, let's talk about Druid of Purification. 3 generic and a green for a 2/3 human druid. When Druid of Purification enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player may choose an artifact or enchantment you don't control. Destroy each permanent chosen this way.
Phenomenal.
It's very good. Rex Sage screwed up.
Yeah. This, I'm probably going to replace Null Mage Advocate with Druid of Purification in my Vannifar deck. Okay. Because Vannifar prefers to have creatures that are one and done. They do their thing, and then they can be safely sacrificed without losing value.
Right.
And Null Mage Advocate is actually the exact opposite. Since it has a tap ability, it has to stay out, and then you want to keep using it, so you want it to keep staying out. Druid of Purification, all of the value is right away, and then you sack it. So for me, I think this card is an auto-include in my Vannifar deck. I'm very excited about it. It reminds me of Pierce Whim a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I like and what's the other one? Council's Judgment.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Druid of the Council as far as I'm concerned.
Well, different color, but this even though it's 4 mana without like any of a body, you're getting potentially 4 spot removals of the 4 meanest things on the board, artifacts and enchantments that you don't control, and most of the hate is not going to be coming at you because you only made 1/4 of those decisions. So I think this is a win-win. I love this card.
Well, heck, the way that you play this is one of 2 ways. One, you play this letting the table know, hey, we need to destroy that thing.
Yeah.
This is the way that I've got to destroy that thing. Sorry, like, I don't know what to tell you. And more times than not, you're going to be okay. The other way that you play it is you play this card and then you pick the 3rd worst thing at the table. And you let everybody else resolve what the first and second thing are. The amount of value that worst case scenario. Say you get rid of the one bad thing at the table and then a couple of other things that don't really matter. That's still better than Rexage. That's still better than a lot of different types of targeted removal. This is a 4 mana. You can recur it.
It is no blowback. Like even for other players, none of them can ever hit what you have. There's other than the slightly swollen casting cost of 3 to green, which I think is pretty acceptable for spot remove 4 things. There's really no, like, this is a great spot removal card. I like this a lot. I like it.
Yeah, sorry to be a broken record, but if Rexage is 2 in a green and this is 3 in a green, yes,
This is just better than Rexage for me.
by a lot.
Yeah.
By a lot. Let's move on to multicolor here with another legendary creature. Why don't you talk to me about Karazakar?
Yeah, so Karazakar, the Eye Tyrant, is a legendary creature beholder for 3 black red. It's a 5/5, and it has whenever you attack a player, tap target creature that player controls and goad it. Whenever an opponent attacks another one of your opponents, such as with goad, you and the attacking player each draw a card and lose 1 life. Now, the thing that I like about this is that the second ability is synergistic with the first ability, but they're not inextricably linked. It's not like it has to be a creature you goaded this way or anything like that. It can just be, hey, I'm playing Edric in Rakdos. Attack my opponents and I will give you cards. Yeah. It's that simple. Also, that thing has to attack. I like this. This is interesting. It's not groundbreaking.
No.
But it's a good card to just exist.
So, does this... All right, I need help with the wording here.
Okay.
So, for the second ability, whenever an opponent attacks another one of your opponents, you and the attacking player each draw a card and lose 1 life.
Yes.
If my opponent attacks 2 of my other opponents, does that trigger twice?
Yes.
So that's... Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. You want them to spread the love here.
It's a very...
Because you can get each of your opponents... You can draw 3 on every player's turn if they attack with 3. So you can be...
No.
Yeah.
Because it's whenever they attack another one of your opponents, right?
So 2.
So 2 is the maximum, but you can do that pretty consistently.
In a pot of 4, you can get 2 cards.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so then for 3 of them, you could, in Christmas Land, be getting 6 cards before your turn starts.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think even getting half that, even getting 2 or 3 cards each turn.
Yeah.
I think, of course, you're going to be running all the goat effects in here, right? This is goat tribal.
Thantis is one of those decks that I've always wanted to build and I never have.
I think this is more interesting than Thantis. I mean, it doesn't have green, but
no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm in here now doing this thing where like this set replaced a lot of the cards that I was going to have to buy,
right,
for me to want to make a Thantis deck. And I'm looking at the other creatures in here, and I'm like, I don't know if Thantis is going to actually make the cut in this deck anymore. Because I don't have a Rakdos deck, and
yeah, nor do I.
This is a pretty interesting card for that.
This throws back a bit to Zancha, the sleeper agent, in this idea of political Rakdos cards. And
yes,
we actually saw a lot of political Rakdos cards in unsets, but unfortunately those are not legal.
Right.
So pretty limited there, but I would love to see more political Rakdos cards like Karazakar and like Zancha that just involve giving things... Oh, I guess there's also Blim, Comedic Genius.
Sure.
Giving things but exacting a cost, I think it's not as cut and dry as something like Nekusar, where it's like, okay, well, I'm giving you cards, but you're going to lose before you can cast them. Right. This is much more like, oh, just hurt my enemies and I'll pay you. I like that more. I
like the idea of chaos politics.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Rakdos is leaning into in a pretty cool way.
I think this is it's a nice, straightforward political commander. And if you're looking for a Rakdos political commander, you could go worse than this.
No, it is definitely on my short list of cards that are going to become a lead singer very soon. So let's talk about a couple of things that, maybe they're not as powerful. Maybe we're not talking about destroying 4 permanents or having awesome
they're not green
effects and things like that. Can we just talk about how adorable of a card Bucknerd's Everfull Purse is? So 2 generic for an artifact that has pay 1 and tap it, roll a d4 and create a number of treasure tokens equal to the result. The player to your right gains control of Buckner's Everfull purse. This is so much fun to me.
This is fun. I would say that insofar as political, it's not. This is a group hug card.
Oh, for sure.
And don't get me wrong, I love group hug cards, but just need to be clear, when you play this, you're going to help the entire table whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And as long as you're okay with that, this is just a delightful card.
Because the timing on it's got to be a little weird, too. Because you basically have to talk to the person to your right, make sure they're not going to do anything terrible with a little bit of extra mana, for you to use it before your turn and get the most amount of value out of it.
That's the other thing, right? Is that unlike something like what's our fun armor set that we like?
Oh, Assault Suit.
Assault Suit. Unlike Assault Suit, this doesn't have any protection from being sacrificed. And if you have another artifact deck at the table, or any artifact deck at the table, not only can you not prevent them from sacrificing it, but you also can't prevent them from eventually getting it as long as you send it along its way.
Right.
So this is a pretty vulnerable piece.
That said, nothing would make me happier than casting this, rolling, getting my... Let's say I luck out and I get 3 treasure tokens. Okay. And then I pass this to the player to my right. And then they sacrifice it. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! Did you two see what this person just did? I tried to give you all treasure.
Yeah, I would definitely be pulling the same move.
This person.
It's like, look at them. You were going to get treasure, and they took it from you.
Listen, I had a corporate credit card. We were going to go and buy a bunch of stuff, and they threw it in the trash.
Yeah.
You should hurt them. Also, if they're going to sacrifice this, that probably means that they're in a position where, oh, no, people can't have extra resources. I'm going to try and win soon. I love this as a card idea. And I think it's neat. At the same time, as much as the timing can be weird on it, you at least get to control the starting point. Which,
right.
I love Rites of Flourishing, right? But I get that benefit last.
Yes.
And that concerns me sometimes, because if that same mean player that wants to not have other people have fun gets to do something about it before it's my turn, well, I gave everybody value but me.
Yeah, this is more of a Temple Bell thing, where you just hold it until it's time to do it, and you'll get the most advantage, and everyone else gets the least relative advantage, because they're going to get the advantage anyway. You just want to maximize that gulf to make sure that you're edging them out slightly. Which is going to be pretty hard with such a random...
Temple Bell Purse.
Yeah, Temple Bell Purse. This card is random. It's delightful. I don't think you're going to generate any value off of it, but you are going to generate social capital, which I think we both know is something that is vastly underappreciated in the game of Commander. Sure. And even little tiny benefits like this, like Forbidden Orchard, where you're giving somebody a 1/1.
A spirit.
Even if you're giving somebody a fraction of nothing, as long as it's free, they will overvalue it.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. It's free and, well, in those other circumstances, it's you choosing to give them something, right? For this, it could be something where, hey, would a couple extra mana help you next turn? Mm-hmm. And if they say yes, okay, great, do it then.
As long as they're not seated to your left, it's like, hey, can you make sure I can help this player? They're like, no.
Nope, I sure can't. Here's the thing. I can make sure it heads that way, but I can't do anything else. This is one of those things where it's like, this is a cool turn 2 play.
Yeah.
There's other turn 2 plays I'd rather have if I'm looking to ramp. Right. Don't get me wrong. But I dig the idea of having this and then just holding on to it until somebody on your right says, hey, really help me out if you move that over here next turn. All right, don't mess with me.
I mean, I can't even tell you just how often there has been a situation of 1 more mana. Being able to meet somebody's mana requirements when they're 1 mana short is like throwing them a life preserver when they're drowning. Mm-hmm. They are so grateful or so desperate, depending on how you view it, that you're either going to gain a lot of rapport with them in that game, or you're going to be able to exact quite the deal with them. Either way, a silly little card is punching above its weight class because giving value away is not throwing it away. It's planting a seed.
Right.
You're getting a benefit even if it's not immediately visible. And I like this card. When we were picking cards out to review, I hadn't even noticed this one. I skipped right over it. Mike pointed it out to me, and I'm glad that he did, because what a cool little card, Mike.
It's an adorable little uncommon. The best part is, worst case scenario, you pay or you give it to somebody, they pay 1, they roll 1. I have caught up to even. Huzzah! Go ahead and have the purse now. Alex, why don't you go ahead and talk to me about our last card here, and it's a land, another uncommon.
Yeah, here's our last card. It's a land, Underdark Rift. This is a non-basic land with tap, add a colorless, and the activated ability, pay 5, tap, and exile this card. Roll a d10. Put target artifact, creature, or planeswalker into its owner's library beneath the top X cards of that library, where X is the results. Activate only as a sorcery. Now, this is a really expensive activated ability. However, it's spot removal on a land. So its spot removal normally costs up to 3 mana to get some decent spot removal, which this is. This is what's the white spell? Obliviate? Or
the one that shuffles it into Ablation?
Ablation, yeah. It puts it too deep, right? Or it shuffles it in, yeah.
Or it shuffles it into their deck.
Yeah. This is, I mean, even if you get 5, that's 5 draws away, but you can get 10, that's 10 draws away. This is, it's not just something where you're seeing it as a downside, where it's like, okay, well, they can eventually get it back, because this can be a lot more powerful than just normal spot removal. Normal spot removal, like destroy, well, what if it's indestructible? What if it has protection from white and from black, like some cards? And then, as our friend Dana Roach has shown, some 75% of the top 100 removal spells are white and black. Very difficult to give something pro colorless or pro land. So this is getting around indestructible. It's getting around most forms of protection, and it's on a land. So I don't know. I mean, for 6 mana, you can send someone's commander back to the command zone. You can tuck their best artifact, creature, planeswalker.
You can tuck a win con.
Yeah, it's...
Sorry, I just stood here slack-jawed for a second because I tried to think of if protection from lands are words that I've ever seen before.
No.
And now I'm just kind of like, all right, if we ever go to Zendikar...
I mean, protection from everything would give us protection from lands, but...
Sure.
Aside from that, this is... Yeah. You're paying 5 mana or 6 mana equivalent and losing a land, and you're spot removing in a tuck fashion. It's more powerful than normal spot removal in that way. And I don't know. This could find a spot in my Emrakul deck, because I think I have Blast Zone in there, which is a board wipe on a land. I thought that I would want to have that. I've never actually wanted to use it because the double X and the activation cost, the fact that it hits my own stuff. Maybe I can just replace it with this.
It almost feels like Blast Zone is a really, really good, like... It's a good rattlesnake more than it is like an imminent threat. Just because it's one of those things that for you to actually activate, you're balancing the scales the entire time, the math symbols all across your head, and okay, you know what, I guess it's worth it for me to do it right now for this.
This is an ace in the hole removal spell. Like, how many removal effects do you have on lands? Very few. I'm trying to think of any right now. Like,
no, and I not off the top of my head, and I'm sitting here in the, like, this is really cool. I'm glad that it's roll a d10, so it is random enough. I'm glad that it's exile Underdark Rift instead of sacrifice it. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like this is a good balance card as well as a cool card. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I would say it's good for that emergency situation where it's, okay, I need to get removal or that player over there is going to win, because this is a sorcery effect. You can't do it if they're popping off on their turn. This is in that situation, and we've all been there many, many times, where the player across the table, the bolus or the top dog, whatever have you, is clearly in a position to win. And all everybody else is doing now is trying to dig for removal. Well, if you have one extra removal spell on a land, that could save your behind.
Right. And it's sad that it's come to this. Do you know what my favorite thing about this card is?
Is it the flavor?
No. Well, first of all, we like the Underdark, and we like the Rift. There is that. But it doesn't come into play tapped.
Well, I should hope not.
But most of the time when I'm looking at a land card that is a utility land with the effect of blank that does something cool, I almost expect it to either come into play tapped or be extremely overpriced for the actual value that I'm trying to get to.
I mean, I think a lot of people will look at this and say it's overpriced. But, I mean, think about... Let's compare this to Arch of Araska, which is a very similar land, except instead of removing a permanent, you're paying 5 and tapping to draw 1 card.
Yeah, you're paying 5 and... you're paying 6, essentially, to draw a card, right. Or you're paying 5 and exiling a land.
Well, this is still 6.
Something... Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry. It's... I don't know. I just like this.
Spot removal in colorless is 7. So spot removal in land is 6. That makes sense to me.
I'll deal with it. Yeah, I can deal with that. This is a cool card.
Yeah.
It was a good pick.
It's an uncommon. Let's be real. It's an uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's an ace in the hole.
Yeah.
That's all I had to
and it's a hard to target one.
To talk about from this set, Mike. What are your thoughts here?
So again, like, it's kind of weird. I think part of it is we got a little bit spoiled with the political precon.
Boy, did
from
we!
Strixhaven.
I mean, I don't think that we didn't pay proper respect to that. I mean,
we did.
I never buy Commander Precons like I used to. I bought that one because I want to reward that behavior and I wanted the cards in it.
No, it's very cool. It's very cool, and because
that
existed,
Silver Quill,
yeah. Because we got that, and we got some, we got a set of cards with the demonstrate ability. We got all these things that it's like, hey, this is political, this is group hug, this is a couple of things that are going to be interesting for you. I think I went into the D&D set, which I've been excited about for a long time because, again, love D&D. And my thought was, as a person who loves D&D, I love this set. I love the main set. I love the precons. There is a lot of cool power in here. It's cool to see a couple of creatures that weren't in the set. Like, beholders are in the set. That's awesome. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
As an EDH player, there's a lot of power in the set, and there's a lot of cool things. Mm-hmm. Great. As a social contract podcaster,
it's slim pickings.
I'm a little bummed out.
Well, you're right. We have gotten a little spoiled, and it wasn't just Silver Quill. We've had some sets as of late that have just been exploding with political and group hug style value, and this set's a lot leaner on that. And I think that's kind of the default, right? Is the set is not usually going to be full of politics.
And you know what? That's okay. Because I don't... If we had the ability to make a deck that was the 99 and the commander, it was all politics and lands, right?
Yeah.
That would get a little bit hard to keep track of at a certain point where everything I do means that we all do a thing. That might slow it down. It's called the filibuster deck. Because it's a lot of...
Is your win con Azur's Elocutors?
I think it has to be.
It has to be.
And here, like, this is not a bad set by any means as far as Magic. It's not a bad set for EDH. It is a little slimmer for us, but we've had a whole bunch of stuff. And what else comes out this year? I know Innistrad comes out this year. After that, are we are we at the slowdown point, or is it still going fast?
It seems like during the summer, they usually, at least the past couple of years, they've just had this rapid fire set release, and it's been getting faster and faster with each year as Wizards continues to pump out more and more sets, because they found that there's really no upper limit so far as to how many sets they can print in 1 year that people will not buy. People just keep buying them. And stores keep posting pre-releases, and Commander players keep buying singles, and people keep drafting and playing standards. So I guess from their perspective, there's really no reason to go any slower than they currently are. But I mean, one thing I would like to point out is, I believe you can correct me, that one of the upcoming Innistrad sets is supposed to be about a vampiric wedding. Isn't that correct?
I thought I saw, and we'll have to clarify this, but there was something where Innistrad is basically two different sets, or two different actual
2 sets in a
releases.
block. Yeah,
because it's something that's in late September and then another thing that's in November, and I thought there was some kind of theme around something. So if that's the case, that actually sounds pretty cool. Let me check this so we don't sound like
complete just guessing idiots.
No, but
let's see here.
If I'm not allowed to sound like a guessing idiot, then I need to completely rechange my brand on this podcast. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Innistrad Midnight Hunt, scheduled to release September 2021. Will focus on werewolves and DFC cards. Innistrad Crimson Vow will focus on the biggest vampire wedding in Innistrad history. I knew it. Okay. So here's my prediction. Innistrad Crimson Vow is going to have a lion's share of political cards, and I'm pretty excited for that to happen, because you have to imagine the kind of wheelings and dealings that are going on at a vampire wedding. Vampires love that kind of thing, control. This wedding is probably political in and of itself. It's probably merging 2 families for political benefit, and I'm imagining like a Godfather-style situation where you have like people approaching Soren or whoever is the leader of the family.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what they do with that.
Watch it be Grandpa Soren and its kids. I'm all in on that, and I'm not like a big vampires or werewolves guy.
No, politics.
But you know what? Okay, you've got me interested, Wizards. I see you.
Yeah. Plus,
Alex,
vampires means white and black, so white and black tends to have some politics in there.
Politics to it. Yeah, you're right. Alex, if somebody wanted to talk to you about the Forgotten Realms set, or vampires, or werewolves, or a whole bunch of other stuff that was tangential to Magic the Gathering, as well as Magic the Gathering, how would they find you?
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at Lappermedic, LAPPERMEDIC, or you can get me directly through email at alex@edhrec.com. You can also find me in our Discord.
Yeah. We've got a Discord link in our show notes. It's been popping off in there lately. Been having a bunch of people talking about being excited for this set, asking Alex a lot of questions.
Oh yeah,
because he is our judge, Alex, and getting some input as through phasing and a bunch of other things that I never thought to question. But at the same time, I have also been at a table and texted Alex from thousands of miles away to figure out how something works. So there you go.
Happy to help.
If you want to buy any of these Commander Precons, and you should, because they are cool. I will say that by themselves. They are pretty cool, and they can do some pretty nutty stuff.
Yeah, I mean, none of the lead commanders are jumping out at me, but a couple of the ancillary commanders are.
I like a couple, but I'm with you.
Yeah.
You can actually support us by going to bit.ly/EDH_social. Go to TCG Player to get any of the cards we talked about, the precons themselves, deck boxes, sleeves, etc. We'd appreciate that. You can also follow us on Twitter at EDH_social, or email us at thesocialcontractedh@gmail.com. At any of those locations, please hit us up if you want to hear us take a commander that you like and give it the social contract treatment. We're going to give it another couple weeks here. We'll announce our winner in the first show in August, and Alex and I are going to do a live deck talk, because we've wanted to do that for a while, and well, this is the best way that we can think of to do it.
We're going to have a winner, and that winner is going to have a deck built by us on our podcast, and then we're going to construct that deck and give it to that lucky listener.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I haven't peeked behind the curtain. I haven't let Alex know about any of the entries that we've gotten yet.
Yeah, he hasn't told me crap.
Because I think it's funnier that way. I will give you this, Alex. There's been 2 different types of entry. There's been, here's a commander that I really like, but I want to make it play nice with everybody. So how do I make this commander political without being rude? And then the other one is, I have an extremely rude commander. Good luck making it not rude.
Oh, dear Lord.
So we're going to be picking... I'm not going to lie. Depending on how many entries we get, we might be doing 2 of these in the future.
I mean, if they make it too rude at that point, we're just going to be like, okay, well, this is the commander, but I'm not casting it.
Yeah, I will point out that I haven't gotten the request to make a Nekusar fun deck, but, there's still plenty of time. With that said, regardless of how we see to you, regardless of how we talk to you, we will talk to you soon.